everyone. So fun to be here again together, and Melissa's back with us. We're super excited. So Melissa's, so welcome to our Bloominar. Today's April 9th. It's our third one. Madonna and I have been co-creating this incredible Bloom a Life You Love experience, and stay tuned because we're also creating a program which we're super excited about. So I'm Maria Milano, and I'm a wellness practitioner based in Boston, although these days I don't know where I'm based from because the world has gone crazy. So right now I'm in Brattleboro, Vermont, which has been really lovely. But anyway, so happy to be here. Madonna, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Yep. I'm Madonna Murphy, and I actually am a corporate finance accountant, but I left my job last year because I want to live a more creative, spirit-filled life. That's what I'm pursuing now. And I'm actually sitting in my art studio right now as we speak in Rockland in Massachusetts. So
in front of beautiful art that she did.
I guess so. Yes. Thank you. So anyway, but thank you very much.
Yeah, good. So, and we have Melissa, who's back with us to talk about intuitive eating. So on the 26th, she did a wonderful Bloominar on intuitive eating. And I believe everybody has the link for that. So if you haven't had a chance to watch it yet, watch it. And if you have watched it already, you can watch it again, because I know when I watched it a couple of times, I got more out of it. So let's see, somebody's. So yeah. Out of the first one, people specifically wanted to hear a little bit more about implementation, a little bit more about set point, and also about structure and how structure aligns with intuitive eating. So Melissa's going to talk about those topics tonight, and then there'll be time for questions, I think, because we're going to have a little bit of a smaller group than we did last week, so that'll be good. And then we can sort of see what emerges. Yeah, and I do want to do our legal disclaimer, because we're recording it. So I'll just read. FYI, this online event, Bloominar, will be recorded using audio and video and may be shared at a later time. So please note that by attending this event, you agree to any of your statements, questions, and your physical likeness being recorded, which was also in the registry. Oh, want to do some housekeeping now, and then we'll do and get started? Okay.
Sure. So just to let everyone know, I'll just keep you all on mute during the call, and I'll keep you take you off mute at the end. But if you have any questions during the call, you can do two things. Either one, you can raise your hand actually through a raise your hand function within Zoom, and I think it's at the bottom of your screen if you hit manage participants or the function more. Otherwise, feel free to ask a question through the Zoom group chat. And obviously, if you're going to post any messages, just make sure that you select to everyone, not just to Maria Milano. That way we can all see them, and Maria and I will monitor those during the call and let Melissa know if there's any questions, any burning questions during the call itself. Okay? So thanks very much, everybody.
Yeah, beautiful. So let's just take a moment to take a deep breath together and just pause in stillness. And anchor into the moment with our breath. And just let the energy settle as we come together tonight to learn about intuitive eating. And just tune into the intuition that lies within yourself, within your body, your being. Tune into your gut. And also the heart. Bring awareness to the heart space. And just take a moment with your breath supporting, opening up the heart space. Just imagine your heart opening up and extending and connecting with each person in this call, co-creating a space together to explore self-care, true nourishment, and intuitive eating. And then just take a moment and ask yourself, what would I like to feel or experience from this session tonight? What might your intention be? So what might you want to feel or experience, and what's your intention? And just take a moment to write that in the chat box. What you're hoping to feel, what your intention might be. And also if you have any questions. Hi, Jason. Yeah, so maybe what's your intention even for yourself? What's your intention for people in your life? Yeah, and you can go ahead and write that in the chat box as you feel called. And Melissa, maybe you want to go ahead and get started. We can transition to you.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. So Melissa is a transformational health coach, and she specializes in intuitive eating, and her practice is based in Boston, but she can work with anybody from anywhere because she works remotely with people. And yeah, specifically helps people, women specifically, but anybody really with anxiety around food. So yeah, so I'll let you go ahead and get started.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you
Thank
all so
you.
much for being here, for creating this space for me to come and share and for all of us to come together. I know it's such a weird time when we're distant from one another. So being together, even if it's virtually, is really nice. And we can all talk about, you know, the things that we want and our struggles and share in this safe space. So yeah, my name is Melissa. I have a health coaching practice here in Boston, but it's virtual, so I can work with people anywhere. And I work with people who have anxiety around food, and I help them find peace with food so that they can feel free and live lives they love. So just a quick recap. So 2 weeks ago, I talked about intuitive eating, and it was all about the 3 steps to finding peace with food. So these are things that I take my clients through. I have a long history of struggling with food myself. And intuitive eating and transformational coaching is what really helped me get to that place where I have freedom and peace around food. And oh my God, there's just like so much freedom there. It goes like much beyond food. It goes into just ripples out into your life, right? So I won't go too deep into those now because I know that you guys have the recording, and maybe you were on the other call or have watched the recording, but feel free to go watch it whenever you have time. But those 3 steps are ditching the diet mentality. So we talked about different signs that will say that maybe you are in the diet mentality and viewing food from a diet mentality. And it's really not your fault. It's just diet culture. And, you know, we've gone through a lifetime of getting so much messaging about dieting and like what we should be eating and how and when, right? And so that's just completely disconnected us from our bodies. So first step is ditch the diet mentality. The second step was to eat intuitively, right? So we talked about some actual steps to start eating intuitively. Some of those I'm going to go deeper into today. But the cool part is that we are born intuitive eaters. Like, this is our instinct. This is how we are born wanting to eat. And it's just through diet culture that has become kind of like a tangle in our minds. And so really intuitive eating is actually really liberating because you already know how to eat intuitively. So it's just about remembering how to get there, which is really liberating. And if you see like little kids, like they eat when they're hungry and they stop when they're full, and they have no like concept of like what's healthy and what they should and shouldn't eat. It's just like through messaging that we start to decide and make rules for ourselves about what we're allowing ourselves to eat and not, right? So eat intuitively is a second step. And then the third step is to get down to what's really driving your habits. So we all have different beliefs, different stories, different experiences, and that's really driving our habits. And so whenever you really get down to why you're doing things, you're able to rewire those beliefs and create new beliefs that are in support of how you want to feel. So we're going to talk deeper into all of this, but one example is that of like emotional eating, right? So if you are an emotional eater, or if you know somebody who is, you can imagine that just saying, well, just don't do it. Just stop doing it. Like that would be really unhelpful. That's not how things work, right? And typically when somebody eats out of emotional reasons, they're already beating themselves up. I've definitely been there, and some of you guys might resonate with that as well. So the really important piece of this is getting down to why that urge is there to eat whenever you're feeling some sort of emotion or something that feels like too much to handle, right? And so an example of that would be like if you grew up thinking that feeling was bad or expressing your emotions was bad, then it would make sense that you develop a mechanism to not feel those things or to not express them as much, right? And so sometimes that is eating. And so there's a good reason why we hold on to our habits. And there's a good reason why they're there. So it's really uncovering why they're there so that we can start to create habits that are more in alignment with how you want to feel, right? So I know that some of the main questions that you guys had were about the set point weight theory, about structure when it comes to intuitive eating. And I fully understand why that question is there for sure. And then about implementation, like how do we make this happen, right? So let's start with the set point theory. So the set point theory says that your body likes to stay at a relatively stable weight. So there's a range where it naturally likes to be. And a lot of that is dictated by genetics. And this place is where your body functions the best. So your body is going to really, really protect you against dipping below that set point range or going above the set point range. It's a range, by the way. So it's about 10 to 20 pounds. And we'll talk more about this in a second. I keep saying that, but there's really no magic like test to know what your range is. But your body is really, really, really smart. And I always say that because our bodies are incredible and our bodies really know what they're doing. And so it will really protect you against dipping below that range or going above that range. The thing is that going below your set point range is seen as more dangerous, like more alarm bell sign go off than going above your set point range. So even though your body is protecting you to stay within that range, whenever you dip below, that's like the danger zone for your body, right? It doesn't know where its next meal is coming. It thinks it's starving. It's going through famine. And so what happens is that you start to have like a huge appetite. It's really, really hard to lose weight below your set point range. Your body starts to slow down its metabolism. You start to store more fat because it's protecting you, right? Like how amazing is it that our bodies protect us against starving? So the thing that happens then is that like it's hard to lose weight. And so all of those times when you've been on a diet or tried to lose weight, well, no wonder, like this explains why it's so hard to keep weight off. Like 95 to 98% of diets fail. A lot of it is because of the diet mentality and because we think we're failures and because diets don't work, but also our bodies are just not meant to dip below our set point weight theory. And you might be able to do it, but it's going to come at a really, really big cost to your mental health, to your lifestyle, to your happiness, and to your overall like physical health as well. Yes. Yes.
A question just came in from Lara, who's on the phone. She's asking one question about this. I have, she's heard that you can have multiple set point ranges. For example, if a person gains weight, a set point range increases and vice versa. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, so your body can change set points and it's more of a protection mechanism. So if you're fluctuating weight, this can happen, like yo-yo dieting when you're going up and down in weight because it likes to have that stable weight range. But also if you dip below your set point range, like I said, there's like alarm bells going off. So it'll start to raise your set point to try to protect you and make it even harder to dip below. Does that help?
I think so. Let me ask her.
Okay.
Okay, she'll respond.
Awesome. Okay.
But that makes sense to me.
Yeah. So our body, basically the gist of this is that our bodies are protecting us from starving and from famine.
He said yes.
Awesome. Great. So I would love, it would like make everything so easy if we had a test that would just say like, bam, this is your set point range, right? That would be so easy to just know, right? But there really is no test to know what your set point range is. Like I mentioned, it's a range between 10 and 20 pounds. Normal body weight fluctuations are normal. So there are signs that will tell you that you're above your set point range or below your set point range. The thing with those is that they can also be signs of disordered eating or struggling with food. So I've actually like intentionally chosen not to talk about those today just because they can get very confused with disordered eating, with eating disorders, with struggles with food. And so personally, I wouldn't use those. One of the biggest like rules of them and like what I always say to my clients is that you know that you're at your set point range when you're happiest and healthiest. So at that point, your actual weight doesn't really matter. You'll know that you're there whenever you feel your best, both mentally and physically. Mm. And the way that you get there is through intuitive eating. Yes.
Another good question. Can I ask it?
Yes, absolutely.
From Catherine. What if you're on a meal plan and you're not at the point yet where you can eat intuitively, completely 100%? I'm struggling to trust that I'll fall in my set point and not go above.
Yeah.
Great question.
Great question. So hearing these things is great, right? Like information is great, but knowing something is different than actually feeling it and trusting our bodies. And being able to eat intuitively is a process. It doesn't just happen overnight. Like I would love for all of you to like wake up tomorrow and be intuitive eaters, but it's such a journey because we're constantly gathering information about what our bodies are telling us. And a lot of that is building trust that our bodies aren't going to let us down. And so what I would recommend for you, and we'll go deeper into this later, is to take baby steps. So don't jump into the deep end, but just take baby steps and start to gather information that your body isn't letting you down. Like start to gather information that it's working for you. Collect evidence. That's like the biggest piece of advice that I can give you. And we can definitely talk more one-on-one because there's so much there. And there are a lot of fears. And this is something that comes up a lot. And it's completely normal to have these fears.
Melissa, want to welcome a few people who have popped
Absolutely.
in. Yeah, so Jason's popped on the call, Donna's popped on the call, and Sarah was on, and I don't see where she went, so maybe she'll be back, but okay. I just want to welcome them. So go on.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the way that you get to your set point weight is through intuitive eating, because it's so important to work toward feeling your best. Whenever we are chasing a number, that is using external validation or external information to tell us what we're doing, and our bodies are so different, right? And so instead of chasing a number, I always recommend, and this is like how I work with my clients, is to work toward feeling your best. And whenever you feel your best, that's when you're going to feel that peace and that freedom and that trust in your body, and you're going to have the energy and the mental space to create the life that you want when you're not consumed by all of the worries and the fears, right? Because ultimately that's what we want, is to live the life that we want, to bloom a life that we want. See? Little right there for you. Yeah. So this is so much more than about the food. But yeah, like there's so many challenges that I've seen. Like what happens when your set point is higher than what you would like it to be, right? Or what happens when you're not happy with the way your body looks, right? So this is all part of the work that we do. And it's unique to everybody. It's very individualized. And I'm going to be saying that a lot because it's so, so true. Everybody comes with their own set of challenges and goals and lifestyles and things that they want, right? So I had a client who, whenever she first came to me, she said that she wanted to lose weight. She had given birth to her second child like 18 months ago, and she was just not happy with her body. She's like, I'm not okay at this weight. The belly has to go. I'm not okay with it. But she felt like she was constantly fighting with her body, and she felt like she was just very frustrated. And honestly, she just felt like a failure because she knew that what she was doing wasn't working, and she thought it was her fault. So if you know from the last webinar that I did or from the recording, is that the diet is what failed you. You didn't fail your diet, right? And so we started implementing steps so that she could eat in a way that really nourished her. And even though I say this a lot, when I'm like, yeah, listen to your body, feel great. Like I said, hearing it isn't the same thing as truly believing it and truly feeling it in your bones, right? But she did get to a breakthrough where she said, you know, I just want to be healthy. And if this is where my body wants to be, then this is where I'm okay with it, because this is where I can be healthy and active and be there for my kids, right? And I think that that's so, so key. And her body did change, and she got to the place where she was in her normal set point, where she was happy and healthy. And that was her unique situation. It doesn't necessarily mean that that's true for everybody, but there's so much peace that comes, and that is going to be true for everybody. Peace and acceptance in your body and freedom to eat in a way that is calm or free, if that makes any sense. But yeah, it was really, really awesome moment. Yes, another question.
Yeah, I just got texted a question. What about a newly diagnosed diabetes and intuitive eating?
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts about that?
Absolutely. So
these are great questions, by the way.
Such great questions. We'll talk about this whenever we talk about implementation, but for something like that, I would always recommend having a nutritionist in your corner as well, to make sure that you're nourishing yourself the way your body needs to from a physical standpoint. And then together we can work on making sure that you're still happy in your mental health and in your lifestyle, and being able to implement things in ways that make you happy and keep you feeling calm and peaceful, because there are going to be dietary restrictions with diabetes. So it is very, very important. So also reach out to Erin from last week's webinar, and we can all be part of your team. Okay, so are we ready to move on to some structure and its place with intuitive eating?
I think so. Any other questions about set point? I don't see any, and I don't have any text, so I think we're good.
Yeah, Health at Every Size is a great book if you want to learn more about set point weight theory, about health. So with the diet mentality, there's so many beliefs around what does healthy look like? Like, what do we weigh whenever we're healthy, right? And there's so much research behind the fact that healthy can look like many different things. So it's a really, really great book. So I definitely recommend that. Okay, so structure. Was there another question?
No, I was just
Okay, I saw a hand.
No, I'm sorry about that.
No, you're good. Okay, so structure. So structure is something that's coming up a lot with my clients, with people I talk to on Instagram. By the way, I'm very active on Instagram, and I'll be sharing a lot of things. So follow me there if you want to know more about intuitive eating and all of these things, transformational coaching. But yeah, structure has been coming up a lot, especially with this quarantine, because our routines are completely turned upside down. So no matter what your life looked like before, it's probably very different now with this quarantine, right? And even though we know this is temporary, it's still been an extended period of time. There's a lot of emotions, a lot of things that we're dealing with. And so with that, there's a lot of that lack of structure, right? So with intuitive eating, there can be this sense that it's very free flowing and like our head is in the clouds and we're just like doing whatever we want, eating whatever we want. And that's kind of like the vibe that intuitive eating gets, right? Which is very opposite of structure, which is very like grounded and disciplined and hard work. And to a certain element, like coming from a place of control, right? And the reality is that it's very much a dance. So we're different, right? We have different personalities. And I think that they can coexist. They can exist together. So you can eat intuitively and also have a routine that helps you feel your best and keeps you energized and feeling good, right? So you can find what works for you, but I want you to know that you can have both. It doesn't have to be either or. So most people thrive on routine of some sort, right? So one of the things that I've been recommending lately is that might look like eating your breakfast, lunch, and dinner as you normally would. So right now there's so many snacks in our fridge and we stocked up and we have all this food in our pantries, or we're worried about not being able to get things at the grocery store, right? So there's a lot of stuff coming up around food, and it's so related to structure and this complete change in our routines and in our lives. So maybe what that looks like for you, and I'm not saying that this is the way to do it, just offering some advice, take it or leave it, whatever feels good for you, but try eating your breakfast, lunch, and dinner as you normally would, and then see how that makes you feel. So gentle routine. So we're not controlling, we're not trying to eat the same thing every day. We're not trying to measure things, right? There's like, we don't really measure in intuitive eating because we're following our internal body cues. But adding a little bit of routine into your life can be helpful, right? Another reason why this is helpful is because you typically will feel more nourished having an actual meal, like sitting down and having an actual meal versus just snacking all day. And it's not to say, again, that you're not allowed to snack. You're not allowed to reach for the snack cabinet, but it's about aiming for nourishment. So focus on what's going to make you feel the most nourished. And typically that might look like having an actual meal instead of snacks. But yeah, really, really focus on how you're feeling. I think that whenever we change the focus from what we look like or how much we weigh to how we feel, there's so much power in that. And we only get better and better at it. It's like a muscle. So intuitive eating is just building a muscle. So, I love all these bloom bombs that I'm seeing in the chat. Yeah. And like I said, like what works for me doesn't necessarily work for everybody else. So I think that there's so much power in finding what works for you. And that might look different right now and then look a little bit different after quarantine, right? And all of that is okay. We're all kind of adjusting and adapting with everything that's going on in the world. And if you want to talk more about that or what your specific situation looks like, I'd be happy to chat. Just reach out to me. I'm happy to talk more about that. The only thing I would watch out for when it comes to structure is that, like structure and routine, is that it can very easily turn into control, right? So whenever I was really struggling with food, it would, like for me, the need for control was what was really driving it. And when I was at the height of my own struggles, like it was because everything else in my life was felt out of control. And so my way of bringing that control in was to just like meticulously count everything and just like very, very much control my food. And so that's something to watch out for, because you want something that's going to nourish you and help you live your best life. And control is kind of moving in toward the opposite end of that. So focus on how you're feeling. Are you feeling grounded and calm with this routine that you're implementing? Or is it making you feel trapped? There's so much there, but I think that our intuition knows. So if you have trouble tapping in, take a minute to slow down, take some breaths, really tune into how it's feeling for you. It's going to look different right now than after quarantine, and it's going to look different for everybody. But I think that your body and your intuition is your guide to tell you how things are feeling. And I know that sounds very vague. And I know that can be frustrating for a lot of people. Some people want to just say, just tell me what to do. But it's so true. It's so individualized. So yeah. And if you want some guidance, let me know. I'd be happy to chat. Because there's a lot of like beliefs that are driving that too, right? And fear is about loosening that grip of control. So there's a lot there.
Yeah, but I think what you said though, Melissa, is really important about the dance between, you know, structure and intuition, and that there needs to be some level of structure, but it needs to be balanced with that inner intuitive light guiding the process, and to also be asking yourself what's nourishing you, and Definitely. To kind of always come back to that. So
yeah, and there's a certain theme that I see a lot whenever we talk about structure with my clients, is this need to get it right away, or like to be perfect, right? But if you think about balance, think of like trying to do a yoga pose or riding a bike, right? You like fall over when you're trying to find that balance, and it's okay to fall over. It's okay to lose your balance, because that just gives you feedback, and eventually you'll find that sweet spot for yourself. But you can't do it without falling over a couple times. So give yourself grace. It's okay. It's okay to fall over. And that goes with finding like balance with food. That goes with any sort of balance.
Love it.
Does that help as far as structure and intuitive eating?
Yeah. I just was, Laura's texting me. It's helpful. She's texting something, but it hasn't come through.
Awesome.
Okay. Yeah. So
Great.
if she could, if another question comes through, then.
Yeah.
What about anyone in questions, comments, thoughts from anybody? Does it feel? No pressure, but just want to create space for that. Yeah. Okay. Oh, hold on. Do you find that certain individuals are more successful than others with intuitive eating? That's a good question.
Yeah, it's a loaded question.
Yeah, I know.
So I would challenge you and everybody to really define what success means to you, right? So some people want intuitive eating to help them lose weight. So intuitive eating is not a weight loss program. Intuitive eating is not a diet. Intuitive eating is a system to help you heal from the effects of chronic dieting, and honor both physical and mental health. So success in intuitive eating means getting to the place where you feel peace, where you feel calm, when you are healthy both physically and mentally, and you are able to live the quality of life that you want. That is what success is in intuitive eating. And people of all sizes, people who look all different ways, all races, all sexes, they can be successful in intuitive eating. But I think that when you think of, let's say, being successful with a diet, what does success mean there? It looks like, well, how many pounds did I lose? Or how long did I do this for? Or did I finish the challenge, or whatever it is that your diet is, right? So I think it's really important to look at what success means, and give yourself plenty of time and space. So if you think about how long we've been in diet culture, like decades, right? Like a lifetime in diet culture. We are not going to become intuitive eaters overnight. So this stuff is a journey. It takes time. It takes grace. It takes continuing to show up, right? So I feel like I can't answer that success rate, because there is no success rate. If that makes any sense. Like we're all born intuitive eaters, and this is a journey.
If you don't mind, Melissa, I'd like to also just make a comment too, and that I think, intuitive eating is just sort of one of those things that speaks to the greater whole, in that we're all driven as a society to do and to achieve, and that our success is measured by something external. We haven't really been trained as ourselves to go within, and whether it's to do with eating or to do with our emotions or anything, choices that we need to make sometimes. So So in other words, I totally agree with you. I feel like this just takes time. We are not conditioned this way so far to be intuitive. So I'm just saying this to everybody on the call. We just need to give ourselves a break, you know, and do the best we can and not be comparing ourselves to others or to some other standard or measure, you know, to give yourself kindness and compassion on this journey, because this is going to take a while for all of us to learn to go within and listen to ourselves, no matter what it's to do with eating or anything else.
Thank you for that.
It's a different way of being.
Thank you. That is very, very true. Thank you for that. We're not conditioned to be intuitive, right? There was something else I was going to say, but I forgot. Oh, yes. So I really don't think that there is a way to fail at intuitive eating. Like, you really can't fail at this, which is so liberating to think about. Like, you can't fail. How many times are we afraid of failure? Anytime that you like I mentioned, like falling off balance, like there's no failure. It's just feedback for you. Like, no failure, just feedback. So every time that you quote unquote fail, you're just gathering feedback about what didn't work for your body, which is key. Like, you want to know what doesn't work for your body, right? And the more you know about what doesn't work, the more you learn about what does. And you start to become really connected with being able to listen to your body, being able to trust your body. And I think that is such a difference from a lifetime of trusting other people to tell us how much to eat, when to eat, how much we should weigh, all of these things that are really just noise and disconnecting us from our body.
So I just wanted to share, Catherine, is it okay if I share? She just said, yes, this is helpful. The advice is helpful. I'm struggling with structure so more, just that I'm a control, rigidity free. She says with love to herself, but so the advice is helpful.
Yeah, good. I'm glad it's helpful. You're not alone.
No, you're not. And I think that it's about, you know, again, I loved what you said, Melissa, about healing from the effects of diet culture. And one of the parts that we're healing from diet culture is this idea that we can fail at intuitive eating. And that is one of the, you know, most damaging parts of the diet culture that I think we've all been impacted by. So letting go of that paradigm, I think, is helpful. Yeah.
And all of the diets that we've ever tried before, we didn't fail at those either. They failed us because they're not meant to work. So do you guys want to move on to implementation, things like that?
I think any more questions? Move on is good. Thumbs up if it's good to move on. Yeah, thumbs up.
Awesome.
Okay, for those
I
of
love
you
that we're all like being able to see each other. This is really nice.
Yeah. And those that are on their calls are texting. Some are, so okay, good.
Cool. So with implementation, I really see this as two parts, and they're both very, very important. You need to have both parts of this. And so that's what I call the inner game and the outer game. So the inner game are our beliefs that drive our habits, they drive our behaviors, and the inner game is the work that you do to create beliefs that are in alignment with the experience that you want to be having. Then there's the outer game. The outer game are the actions that you're taking. Do this over and over consistently, and you have a new habit, right? It's your behaviors, your outer game, like what you are doing. But you need to be able to have both. Like, both of these need to be part of the equation to create long-lasting habit change, right? So the outer game are some of the things that we talked about last time. So things like listening to your body, honoring your hunger, like eating when you're hungry. Like, how many of us have heard like, oh, you already ate your points for the day, or you already ate whatever for the day. Like, you can't have more even if you're hungry. It makes no sense. But here we are, like, ignoring our hunger signals, right? So honoring your hunger is such a key part of who we are as humans, and a key part of eating intuitively. Also eating things that are satisfying to you. Like, what would feel the most nourishing, the most satisfying for you, right? Think of, like, I know last time I gave this example of like pizza versus salad. So there are times when eating pizza would be the better choice for you, even though through diet culture, we've been conditioned to think like, oh, salad is good, pizza is bad. But like, that's not true. In intuitive eating, there are no good foods and bad foods. There are times when pizza is a better choice, and there are times when salad is a better choice. And that's so dependent on other things that you've eaten, not because you're trying to make up for anything, but because it's what your body needs in that moment. It's dependent on your activity levels that day. It's dependent on so many things, right? And so your body is going to tell you that it needs that. But if you're stuck in diet mentality, if you are holding on to those fears, if you haven't let go of the diet mentality, then there's going to be kind of like an inner conflict there. And you're going to feel like you need to choose salad even though your body's asking for pizza. So eating what feels the most satisfying. And if you were to take a baby step, just tap into thinking about what feels most satisfying and like start there. Just like tap into what your body is telling you that would be the most satisfying, right? Think about aiming for nourishment. So we're not chasing weight loss. We're not chasing a number. We're aiming for nourishment. So what would feel the most nourishing for you right now, right? And this also ties into our relationship with exercise and movement. We want to, just like we could be intuitive with our food, we can also be intuitive with our exercise. And we've been told like, oh, you need to burn off that dessert, or we've been told that we need to do like super high intensity things all the time. But that's not true. And your body needs different things on different days. And so it's okay to be intuitive with your movement too, and do things that feel the most satisfying for you. Move in ways that would feel the most nourishing for you. Move in ways that feel good for you, right? So all of that are examples of outer game. Yes.
Sorry, Melissa, just also with that, I guess, can you maybe even take a step back, and if somebody is struggling to know what hunger is, what would you say?
Yeah. So our hunger signals can be different for everybody, right? And there's like different levels of hunger. So I'm sure everybody has been here. I've certainly been here where we're like so hungry that we're like angry and we would eat anything. And no matter how much we eat, we're never satisfied because we're just like so ravenous, right? But then there's like those beginning stages of hunger. So like I mentioned, everybody's different. For me, some of those signals are like feeling that emptiness in my stomach, maybe like a little growl. Like those would be signals that it's kind of time to start thinking about what you're going to eat, right? Because you don't want to wait until you're ravenous to eat something. Because at that point, you can't really make any choices. You'll probably just like eat whatever's in front of you at that point, right? And again, not because you're not allowed to do that, but because we want to tap into what our body is telling us. And it's hard to listen whenever we're so hungry we could eat a horse.
Does that help the person who asked that question? If you feel like you've got another way of wanting to ask it, please let us know.
Yeah, and it's so healthy to listen to our hunger because your body's working properly whenever it's giving you hunger signals. If you have spent a long time ignoring those hunger signals, which can also be really common, your body, like you start to become disconnected with what those hunger signals mean. So if you're having trouble connecting, take baby steps. Like start to just like notice what's happening in your body. That might look like a headache. And as you get better at it, you'll start to be able to notice it earlier and earlier on. Because I worked with a lot of people who say, well, I just don't really know that I'm hungry until I'm hangry. And that there's nothing wrong with you. It just means that we can start to kind of bring it forward a little bit to start to listen to what our hunger signals are earlier on in the process. But it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. It's normal to be in that place when we've ignored our hunger signals for a long time.
Great. Thank you, Melissa. That is totally helpful. Thank you.
Of course. Yeah. So those are all examples of outer game stuff. So let's talk about inner game. So inner game is the belief work, questioning our beliefs, starting to really uncover what's behind our habits and our behaviors. This is where I get really excited because I love inner game stuff. So think about like those inner voices that tell you, oh, you shouldn't eat that pizza, or you should probably have salad instead, or, oh, you already had dessert. Like, why are you going to go for snacks afterwards? Like all of those inner voices that we hear, we all have them, but we can start to challenge them. knowing that they're not true, knowing that we still get to decide, knowing that they're not in control, and starting to like unravel our fears and how we let those voices dictate our choices, right? So all of that is part of inner game work. And they're different for everybody. Everybody deals with different voices depending on what their previous history is with food, if you struggled with food in some way, which I know so many people have. So a lot of inner voices there that can show up. We can also start to reframe our beliefs about what makes you attractive, what makes you healthy, what makes you worthy. So we're so programmed to think that smaller is better, right? That's the messaging that we've heard forever, right? And so being able to start to unravel those beliefs, getting to like where they came from so that we can start to create new beliefs that are more in alignment with how we want to feel, right? Also like what's actually going to make us happy. There was a time when I thought that being skinny is what would make me happy. Being skinny is what would make me worthy, right? And at one point I lost a lot of weight and I was so miserable, so unhappy. Like it just like, it's not really the truth. And like, I think that we're born worthy for one, but we can all be healthy and happy at all different sizes. So challenging those inner voices telling you, back to the exercise example, like that you have to go burn off dessert, or you have to go like make up for dessert, or whatever is coming to you, right? We hear a lot about this when summer is coming around, when they talk about bikini bodies and things like that, or like after Christmas or after Thanksgiving, when they talk about burning things off. All of that is so toxic. Something that came up between the three of us before everybody showed up is like being able to, so you have control to filter out any of the noise that is not making you feel good about yourself. So think about social media, think about newsletters that you're subscribed to, think about even like television. Like you have control to unsubscribe, unfollow, unfriend things and people and content that is not making you feel like your best self. So if you are feeling like you're not good enough, if you are feeling like you're not doing enough, if you're feeling like you're not enough in some way, then unfollow. We don't need that. That stuff is so toxic. And we have control over those things. So really that kind of plays into the diet mentality too, right? That is one really simple thing that you can do to start to step away from the diet mentality. And like I said, it's really not your fault. It's just the culture that has been around for so long as far as dieting. Yes, Madonna says unfollow. So yeah, so inner game and outer game is very, very intertwined, because those like inner voices, those beliefs, they show up at like every level of your journey. And we talked about how this is a journey, right? And so every time you reframe new beliefs, you move forward in your journey, and then these beliefs show up again, and then you like toss them away, and then you're able to move forward, but they keep showing up. Everything is so intertwined. So it's really important to be able to do the inner work and the outer work together so that you can continue to move forward in a way that's going to last. So like I always say, new level, new double. So like every time you get to another level in your journey, there's like something else to uncover. So yeah, it is a journey. Yeah, that's all I want to say there. But like challenges that I see with clients are as far as where the inner work and the outer game would come to play is things like I get questions where my clients aren't sure if something is emotional eating or are they listening to their body, like starting to differentiate those things, right? Or differentiating between, am I choosing this because it's what I think I should eat, or am I choosing it because that's what my body is telling me? Or is choosing pizza just an excuse today, right? So like all of those things are based on our beliefs. All of that is inner work. And I can't just like answer that question, but I can ask you questions to help you uncover what's really going on, and then put things into place so that you are doing things from a place of intuitive eating and not doing things from a place of fear. And this journey is very complex. There's so many moving parts, but it's honestly just so worth it. Like so much mental space opens up, so much peace, so much freedom. Yeah. And I wish I could just wave a magic wand and make everybody intuitive eaters overnight, but you know,
It doesn't happen that way.
no, it doesn't. Yeah.
So Melissa, just a couple more comments that maybe you can respond to, or questions. One is comment about stress eating, and just kind of, and right now there's so much stress we're all dealing with. So stress eating and how intuitive eating ties in with coping with that. And then also eating over hunger cues. So what happens when you've reached your hunger and you're still eating beyond that? So maybe you can speak to those 2 points.
Yeah, absolutely.
Before we stop. And then we were going to stop at 6:30, so we have about 5 more minutes.
Great. Yeah, so these times are different, right? So right now, this container of this like quarantine is different than what we would deal with normally. But I think that it's really, really important to look at things from a lens of curiosity and not judgment, because it's our default to judge ourselves whenever we stress eat. It's a default to eat past our natural fullness that makes us feel good. And so I think that it's really important to get curious as to like, what is the experience that I was going for? Or like, what actually happened? Like what's behind this, right? Because whenever we come from a place of curiosity, we're able to uncover so many things. And like I said, it's feedback. It's not that you failed. But whenever we come from a place of judgment, it's really hard to look at things from a place of working through things. We kind of just go down the rabbit hole of judgment, and that doesn't feel good at all. But yes, just like we honor hunger, there's also honoring fullness, and that is also part of intuitive eating. So it kind of, everybody has different challenges. So it kind of just depends on where you are and what your challenges are. And I have clients who really struggle with honoring their fullness, but I also have clients who really struggle with honoring their hunger. So it's kind of figuring out where you are and getting to that place where you're able to listen to both.
Wonderful. I'm just writing these bloom bombs.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I think that all this information is great. Like there's so much information that we've talked about, and I feel like I could just like talk forever about this stuff because I love it.
Great.
But having information doesn't actually change anything. It doesn't create transformation. And as humans, we're so wired to talk ourselves out of things because it always just feels scary. It feels scary to go into the unknown, and it feels safer to stay where we are, even if we're not doing so well, right? Because the unknown is scary. And so we start to get in our own way. But what happens is that even with the best of intentions, then we can't really get very far on our own. So I do really think it's important to have the right system, support, and accountability, because ultimately that's what I want for like everybody, is like a world where we're at peace with food and continuing to take steps toward what we want, where we feel good and we're able to like create the life that we want. So if you guys would like to talk more about your unique situation, your unique challenges, your goals, all of those things, I would love to chat with you. I'm opening some slots in my calendar over the next couple of weeks for food freedom breakthrough sessions. So they're 60 minutes over the phone, where I'll help you get really clear on what it is that you want for your health and your life, and get really clear on what's stopping you, and then put a plan of action in place so that we can get you where you want to be. It's no cost to you. And like I said, we're all different, and we have different bodies, different lives, different goals, different challenges, right? And I know that I sound like a broken record, but it's all very, very individualized, and your path to peace with food and calm is going to be very, very individualized. So that's why these calls are one-on-one. So if you're interested in doing that, I would love to chat with you. You can go ahead and click on that link that Maria,
I've just posted the
Madonna
yeah.
put it in.
Both of us did, actually. So it's there twice.
So just click on that, click book now, and then it'll take you to the calendar where you can choose an appointment that works with your schedule. And you can always change it at a later date if something changes with your schedule. But yeah, I hope to talk to some of you guys soon. I think this was really, really fun. I hope you got something out of it. Thank you so much for being here. This is awesome.
And thank you so much, Melissa, for coming back and specifically addressing those points that have been coming up from the first one. So really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I just want to take a moment and thank everybody for joining us. Wonderful.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, and maybe just take a minute to think about what's one gift that you've received from this experience tonight, learning from Melissa. Just an insight maybe, or a tip.
I think learning to listen to yourself.
Learning to listen to yourself.
Yeah. Trust
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah, trust yourself, learning to listen to yourself. Yeah, beautiful. Anyone else?
The balance between hunger, fullness, and honoring fullness and honoring hunger, I think.
I love that. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, and then this is very much an inner game and an outer game. So it's kind of just being aware of all of those factors that are going on inside out without going crazy, of course. But you know, just being aware. just taking notice is the first step.
And baby steps.
Baby steps. Baby steps. Yeah.
Yeah. And you can't fail at intuitive eating. It's a totally different paradigm than diet culture, and we're healing from diet culture. And we can't fail at intuitive eating because we were born intuitive eaters. It's really about remembering what we were born to be, I think.
Yeah, a lot of this is an unraveling process. And it takes time.
Yeah. Anyone else want to share a gift you received from the session?
To aim for nourishment and not a number.
Love that.
I love that. Thank you for sharing.
Yes. Bloom bomb. Aim for nourishment and not a number. Yeah, exactly.
Well, for me, I've just been finding it fascinating that this exists, and you know, to have someone like you, Melissa, you know, it's just amazing to know there's help out there for this kind of thing. So I'm blown away, to be honest, about this whole topic.
I'm so glad.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot there. There's a lot to unravel. It's complex, but I mean, I think it's fascinating, which is why I've chosen this career. But it's nice to see the transformation and see how much opens up for people. It's really cool.
Great. All right. Well, wonderful. Thank you all so much thank you all for joining us.